Republican Representative Buddy Carter advocated for the Fair Tax Act on the House floor. This is a proposal being put forward by some House Republicans to replace our current tax system with an across-the-board 23% sales tax. And I'll talk about why that would be a very, very bad system to implement after we watch this first clip, and then we'll have some other clips to look at in just a little bit.
H.R. 25, the fair tax, is a simple, fair, and preferred alternative to our current tax system, which puts bureaucrats before the basic needs of hardworking Americans. The bill would eliminate, as in do away with, the federal income, the federal payroll, and the estate and gift taxes, replacing them with a revenue-neutral national 23% consumption tax. Now look, Mr. Speaker, nobody likes taxes, but given the choice between a payroll tax, an income tax, an estate tax, or a gift tax, or a consumption tax, people would prefer a consumption tax because they are in control then.
So this draws upon kind of the ambition for simplicity in a system like this. Oh, if just 23% across the board. And by the way, I do think there's areas we need to simplify our tax code, but this being the solution would be disastrous. But it does appeal to that kind of, oh, that would be nice, easy to break down, 23%. Everyone buys things across the board. But in reality, similar to so many of these GOP proposals, it would just serve to benefit those at the very top of our economic ladder. Before I explain further, here from CBS, a group of House Republicans are pushing to eliminate most federal taxes and replace them with a federal sales tax in a plan that would also abolish the Internal Revenue Service. But tax experts warn the so-called Fair Tax Act is not so fair to working families while giving the wealthiest Americans a break. The bill, H.R. 25, would eliminate all individual and corporate income taxes, capital gains, payroll taxes, and estate taxes, while imposing a 23% sales tax on goods and services. However, tax experts point out that the way the tax is calculated, Americans would pay closer to 30% more for everyday purchases. John Bull, a researcher at the Tax Policy Center, said this would hit the middle class the hardest. And the reason for this is when you think about lower or middle income earners, what percentage of their earnings are being spent on consumer goods and services? It's a very large portion, the basic day-to-day costs, food, gas, etc. Whereas someone who's really wealthy, a smaller percentage of their income is being spent on those consumer goods and services. So what does that mean? A larger portion of the income, a massive portion of the income being brought in by someone who's a lower or middle income earner is being touched by is having this tax applied to it. Whereas now, so much of the income being brought in by those at the top of the economic ladder is not even having tax applied to it, having this tax applied to those earnings. And so you're taking the burden off of those at the top, putting it on to those who are at the lower middle income spot, which is the exact opposite when thinking about which direction we need to go with our tax system. Pretty wild. Next moment from Buddy Carter.
We will be able to capture that underground economy, if you will. As distasteful as it may be, the pimps, the prostitutes, they're going to be paying taxes because they consume. They go out and they buy groceries. They go out and they buy stuff. And that's where you're going to be paying the taxes on.
It's just, as I said, wrong direction. The way that we're trying to head right now is to figure out how to more reasonably, responsibly tax those at the top of our economic ladder with the wild income inequality that we have, and putting the burden more on those who spend disproportionately more in terms of their income as a percentage of their income on consumer goods and services makes absolutely no sense. And removing the very mechanisms that help us get to some of that income from those at the very top, including the capital gains and estate tax, is completely opposite of what we should be doing. One more moment from him.
all these taxes. But with the consumption tax, with the fair tax, you decide. You want to buy a boat, you're going to pay taxes. You don't want to pay taxes, don't buy the boat. That's all there is to it. And I appreciate all these taxes.
Yep. But see, even in that example, you understand what's broken about this. If you don't want to buy a boat, you don't have to buy a boat. True. Good point. If you don't want to pay the taxes on that boat and that, disincentivizes you to buy the boat, okay. But see, you can't not buy food or clothing. And that is what would be having this tax applied to it. That is the exact problem here, that the very basic needs of people would be harder for them to afford, and they don't have the decision of, I'm not going to buy the food, like I'm not going to buy the boat. Come on, Buddy Carter.